Sick and spoiled / severe paranoid patients / blackening / 1v1 double cleanliness, 7 years, for the fantasy cultivation plane, it was just a fleeting moment, and for the quick piercer, it was just a small interlude in their mission life. For ordinary people, there are several 7 years in a short life. She and he were at an unequal starting point from the beginning, and he was destined not to receive her long-term attention. His sickly pale and delicate handsome face was filled with paranoid to almost crazy laughter, a hoarse voice, and an inexplicable ferocious and deep emotion in his pupils. "Alan, don't leave me, okay? I only have you left." His pure guardianship has always turned into a frenzy of possessiveness, making him resort to any means possible. "Have you fallen in love with someone else? It's so troublesome, we need to make a few more people disappear." He is a severe paranoid patient, and she is his fate. "The world is big, and I can always come to you among countless people. The most terrifying thing in the world is you. Without you, I have nothing." While others were working hard on their tasks, she was leisurely eating melons and being the most leisurely eating crowd in the world, so naive and slow that she didn't notice a wolf dressed in sheepskin beside her. A certain jealous jar tightly pursed her lips, feeling somewhat dissatisfied with her intimate behavior with an unidentified guy who appeared in the secret realm. How could she be so casual? Jiang Zuilan said, "Intimate behavior. Whatever. Which eye did you see?" Just wrongly accusing her, she is at least 2 meters away from that person, which can be considered intimate behavior. "I really believe your ghost. Are you afraid there's some misunderstanding about intimate behavior?" Keywords of the novel. Fast-wearing illness, delicate opposite paranoia and black belly without pop-ups, fast-wearing illness, delicate opposite paranoia and black belly complete collection download txt, fast-wearing illness, delicate opposite paranoia and black belly latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Paranoid He's Possessive and Explosive Table 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Paranoid He's Possessive and Explosive Table 1. After Jiang Ruan's death, he was bound to a rescue villain system with the task of going to a designated world to save the villains. The noon sun slanted on her, and outside the door stood a young girl. The afternoon sun shone on her, as if covering her whole body with a faint layer of gold. The girl's lips gently curled up and she smiled warmly. Zheng Xing, who opened the door, was completely dazed. The girl's delicate forehead partially covered her eyebrows, her skin remained almost transparent, and her eyes were as clean as starlight in the mist. "Hello, I am a resident of 702 across from you. I apologize for disturbing you because I just moved." The girl's soft voice made Zheng Xing's ears itch. Then the girl took out a box and said, "I made some dim sum for you. I hope you like them." The boy took the box, but Jiang Wan didn't say much. "Then I'll go first and don't disturb you," he said, "thank you." Zheng Xing raised his arm slightly and shook the box. "It's okay." Zheng Xing watched as she entered the door diagonally opposite and then closed it. Slowly opening the lunch box, she found her favorite cloud cake inside and tasted an unexpected delicacy. Jiang Wan closed the door and looked out through her cat's eye. The opposite door was already closed and she didn't know what the people inside were doing. Jiang Wan did not know whether Zheng Xing would like the dim sum she sent, but the system said that he should like this cloud cake. Jiang Wan has bound a system with the task of redeeming the villains on the plane and pulling them back from the edge of the abyss. Zheng Xing is the villain on this plane, which is why she moved across from him. Jiang Wan received her itinerary from the system and waited in front of the elevator 1 step ahead of schedule. Jiang Ro stepped into the elevator door first, then looked up and pretended to see Zheng Xing stepping into the elevator. Zheng Xing had wide shoulders and narrow waist, with a perfect body proportion. At this moment, his drooping eyes lifted, and their eyes met exactly. She greeted with a smile, "Are you going out?" Zheng Xing walked into the elevator. "Well, go to the supermarket." What a coincidence. I'll go to the supermarket too, let's go together. Jiang Ruan's voice is crisp and soft, unconsciously creating a favorable impression. Zheng Xing did not refuse. Okay. As they walked side by side, Jiang Ruan's voice rang out, "Hello, my name is Jiang Ruan. May I know your name?" Zheng Xing. His voice rang out calmly, with no waves in the well. After buying things, Zheng Xing helped her put them back home and left. She wanted to pour him a glass of water, but he was eager to leave. The next morning, when Zheng Xing heard someone knocking on the door, he felt very confused. He opened the door without thinking, and outside the door, Jiang Ruan was wearing a white dress, clean and sunny. "I would like to ask for your help. The light bulb in my room is too high, could you please help me install it?" Jiang Ruan came up with this idea to find an excuse to approach Zheng Xing. Okay, Zheng Xing agreed without thinking too much. After Zheng Xing installed the light bulb, Jiang Ruan spoke again, "Thank you so much. I made some breakfast, why don't we have it together?" "No need." Zheng Xing didn't agree, so Jiang Ruan quickly put breakfast into the insulated box and spoke again, "You probably haven't eaten yet. You've helped me, so don't be polite anymore." "I'm sorry about that." Zheng Xing took the lunch box and said thank you. After waiting for 2 hours, Jiang Ruan found an excuse to take the lunch box and went to the entrance of Zheng Xing's room to ring the doorbell several times. No one answered, and just as she was about to leave, Zheng Xing pushed open the door. "I'm here to pick up the lunch box," Jiang Ruan said with a smile on her face. Single author seeking support. Oh, this article has been put on the shelves. There will be a fee for 63 chapters, and a single chapter subscription is around 20 coins. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 2. The food is delicious. I just cut some fruit, come in and have some together. Zheng Xing prepared to go get the lunchbox, and Jiang Ruan quickly smiled and responded. Take out the dessert prepared in your hand and say to him, "I just made cloud cake, come and give it a try." Zheng Xing went to get his lunchbox, and Jiang Ruo sat on the slightly cramped sofa, looking around. The decoration was very simple. At this moment, a woman walked out of the room, in her 20s, with an oval face, straight features, romantic brown curly hair, and a black long skirt wrapped around her curvy figure. "I'll leave first, consider my proposal earlier," said Zheng Xing in the woman's kitchen. Without hearing Zheng Xing's response, the woman greeted her slightly and then changed her shoes and left. Is it Zheng Xing's girlfriend? Is there no such introduction in the plot? Is it a system vulnerability? Zheng Xing handed over the lunchbox, but Jiang Ruan didn't want to refuse him. She picked up a piece and didn't taste anything. Her mind was full of the woman from earlier. "Was that your girlfriend just now?" she couldn't help but ask. "No, I don't have a girlfriend yet." Upon hearing his words, Jiang Ruo breathed a sigh of relief and said, "The fruit is very delicious." Zheng Xing sat next to her and handed her a glass of water. After Jiang Ruan left, Zheng Xing looked at the water cup she had just drank, which was not finished yet. In the following month, Jiang Ruan would occasionally give Zheng Xing some pastries, but she found that Zheng Xing's cooking skills were very good, and sometimes the two would go to the supermarket together. Knowing that she was not good at cooking, he often invited her to his house for dinner, and Jiang Ruo also made some pastries as a reward. Their relationship gradually became familiar. On this day, Jiang Ruan bought 2 movie tickets and wanted to schedule Zheng Xing to watch a movie. When he arrived at the door, he found that the door was not closed, revealing a crack where a woman's sharp curse could be faintly heard. "You really think that having a little money is amazing? Don't forget that you are a murderer, just like your father. You really treat yourself like a human. Your father is a beast, and so are you. Do you have a conscience to not show filial piety to elders when you have money? Get out. Zheng Xing's clear voice today was a bit hoarse. The woman didn't seem to hear and continued to curse, with a loud bang coming from the room. Jiang Wan could no longer listen and pushed the door in, leaving the ground covered in glass debris. The woman picked up the cup and smashed it onto Zheng Xing's head. He didn't hide, and blood droplets instantly fell on his head. Jiang Wan was startled and immediately ran to Zheng Xing, asking, "Are you okay?" "Yo, who is this?" "Girl, don't be fooled by him. He's just a murderer." The woman's voice sounds particularly piercing. Jiang Wan turned her head to look at her. The woman in front of her was in her 50s, with a pointed chin and high cheekbones. Her words made her feel disgusted. "Shut up, I'm going to report it to the police. If you maliciously harm someone, you will go to prison." Jiang Wan changed her gentle expression in front of Zheng Xing, but now she was very sharp. Zheng Xing looked at this woman with thin shoulders, standing in front of him like an eagle protecting a chick. Actually, he didn't hide on purpose just now. He saw her come in. "Do you have any evidence to prove that I maliciously hurt someone?" The mournful voice seemed to pierce her eardrums, and Jiang Wan frowned and raised her phone. "I have already recorded it," she said. "Humph. You wait." Jiang Wan watched as she walked away cursing and cursing. She immediately turned around and looked at Zheng Xing, pulling him onto the sofa and carefully using her fingers to poke open the broken hair on his forehead to check his injuries. Zheng Xing didn't feel much pain, the faint fragrance on her body almost drowned him out. "Do you have a medicine box at home?" Zheng Xing shook her head, and Jiang Wan got up to go home to get it. As soon as she turned around, Zheng Xing grabbed her wrist. "Don't leave." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 3. I won't leave. I'll go get the medicine box, you wait for me. Zheng Xing didn't want her to leave, and his hand didn't let go. She felt that he was feeling too uncomfortable alone and comforted. "I'll be here right away." Jiang Wan acted quickly and soon picked up the medicine box, so he could only disinfect it briefly first. "Go to the hospital, okay? Let the doctor check it out." Her soft voice sounded, and warm fingertips slid gently between his forehead. With Zheng Xing's consent, Jiang Wan drove the car while Zheng Xing sat in the passenger seat. She didn't ask him anything along the way. She always felt that some things were painful even when remembered, and didn't want him to go through them again. In the hospital, after the examination, there were no major issues. She felt relieved. As soon as she walked out of the hospital, Jiang Wan heard Zheng Xing say thank you to herself. She felt a little distressed and felt that he was too kind. The woman just abused him so much that he kept his temper under control. If I hadn't seen it myself, the woman wouldn't have known what would have happened. "It's okay, we're all friends, but I originally wanted to invite you to watch a movie, but now I guess it's not possible." Zheng Xing looked at his watch and said, "It's only 6 o'clock. After dinner, we can go and take a look." "But what about your injury?" "The doctor said it's okay and it doesn't hurt either." Jiang Ro nodded as she looked at the smile on his face. The two of them had dinner and went to the cinema. This movie is a romantic one. After sitting down, Jiang Wan found herself surrounded by couples. Zheng Xing noticed that she was looking at her and asked softly, "What's wrong?" "Zheng Xing, I like you." His voice was low, but Zheng Xing still heard it. He curled his lips and looked up at her, his clear voice reaching her ears with a hint of joy. "What a coincidence, I also like you." Jiang Wan lay in bed at night, so excited that she couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned in bed, and the surprise came too quickly, catching her off guard. The next day, when she woke up, it was almost 12 o'clock and she was still very tired, with her eyes a bit hard to open. She hardly slept all night yesterday. She glanced askance at her phone and saw 2 messages from Xing, one of which was 9 o'clock. Good morning, just sent another message. Do you want to come over for lunch? She immediately regained her energy, covered herself in the blanket and laughed, rolling around on the bed, saying hello. After getting up, brushing her teeth and washing her face, she carefully picked out a white dress, simple and generous but not too deliberate, and put on a light makeup. It's already 1 o'clock. Open the door of Zheng Xingjia on the opposite side has just opened. I was about to call you. Zheng Xing took a pair of slippers and placed them next to her feet, which accidentally fit. Her favorite dish at the dinner table was a while ago when she occasionally went to his house for a meal. Every time, she found that he would remember what she didn't like to eat. The food you cooked suits my taste very well. I'm glad you like it. He smiled and touched her head, and the sudden intimacy made Jiang Ruan's heart beat faster. Eat quickly. Zheng Xing placed the bowls and chopsticks in front of her. It has to be said that Zheng Xing's craftsmanship is really like that of a 5-star chef, making her completely unable to resist the delicious food. Every time she eats it, she feels very happy. She wanted to know how he could do everything so well. It was a perfect male protagonist and also pleasing to the eye. Eat slowly, it's all on her face. His tone was full of indulgence, and he reached out to wipe away the food from her face. She regained her senses and lowered her head to pick up the rice. After dinner, she volunteered to wash the dishes, but he refused. He squeezed her a glass of juice and asked her to go to the living room to watch TV, which was very gentle and considerate. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 4. Jiang Wan looked at the TV, but did not notice that Zheng Xing in the kitchen had been watching her all along, his eyes filled with unfathomable subtleties. Zheng Xing looked at the bright smile on her face, thinking it would only bloom for him. He walked over and sat next to her, as if she hadn't noticed, staring at the man on the TV screen. Does he look good? Good looking, very handsome. Zheng Xing's face was gloomy, and her eyes were filled with coldness, but when she looked over, she returned to normal. Is he good looking or am I good looking? He slowly approached Jiang Ruan. She paused for a moment. Did he get jealous? Looking at her slowly enlarged face, she wanted to step back, but she had already reached the end of the sofa. Is he good looking or am I good looking? Jiang Ruan felt her heart going soft. Hello, look. Zheng Xing looked at her flushed face and couldn't help but give her a kiss. Let's just see if I'm good. Okay. Jiang Ruan now feels a bit clingy to Zheng Xing. As soon as she left for work, he called her to ask when she would be back. Jiang Ruan felt like her whole body was covered in pink bubbles, and after hanging up the phone, the smile on her lips never faded. Jiang Ruan had dinner with Zheng Xing at night, but still sat next to him. Looking at my favorite braised fish in front of me, I remembered that I had gained 2 pounds recently and didn't take a few bites for dinner tonight. Zheng Xing saw it and thought she was tired of the food she cooked. Jiang Ruan went downstairs and started researching new dishes. At 2 o'clock in the evening, Jiang Ruan was awakened by pain. When she went out at noon, she drank a cup of chilled milk tea. At night, her aunt is now suffering from menstrual pain. She covered her stomach and went to the bathroom, only to find that her stomach was becoming increasingly uncomfortable. At this moment, her phone vibrated, indicating that it was Zheng Xing. Did you sleep? Jiang Ruan suddenly felt a bit weak and wanted him to be by his side. Not yet, I have a stomachache. After a while, she heard the sound of the doorbell. Jiang Ruan didn't want to open the door at this moment, so she told Zheng Xing the password. As soon as the door opened, Zheng Xing walked in and saw Jiang Ru curling up in pain. Is it your menstrual period? Zheng Xing sat by the bed, tucking her messy hair behind Jiang Ruan's ear. Looking at her somewhat pale face, his heart seemed to be pricked. He found a warm water bag, put it on her stomach, and then he went to the kitchen to cook brown sugar ginger tea. After cooking, he helped Jiang Ro up and made sure that the brown sugar ginger tea in the bowl wouldn't scald her before serving it to her. It's so spicy. Jiang Ruan took a sip and was so spicy that it hit her tongue. Be good, it won't hurt so much after drinking. She had a severe stomach ache and had to hold her breath to finish drinking. Fortunately, the ginger syrup worked, and soon Jiang Ro felt much better and even sweated a little. Zheng Xing was still gently rubbing her stomach. Why are you still up so late? She lay sideways on the bed, looking at the boy in front of her, feeling that dating the villain was really good. I can't sleep, thinking of asking if you're asleep. In fact, when I was researching what to cook for her tomorrow, I saw her news. Jiang Ruan felt like a cat was being rubbed so comfortably by him, and drowsiness slowly came over. She quickly fell asleep. Zheng Xing watched her fall asleep, and he sat by the bed until dawn before returning. She didn't sleep after returning, so she cooked her century egg lean meat congee and put it in the rice cooker for fear that she would wake up hungry. After finishing all of this, it was already past 7 o'clock, and he went downstairs to go for a run. He saw his so-called aunt right outside the entrance of the community. I finally caught you, why don't you let me enter this dilapidated community? Li Fenghua squatted here for 2 days, finally waiting for Zheng Xing to come out. Thank you very much for the 9 recommended tickets and 100 plus 1000 reward questions from Pearl. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 5. After the last time she went back, this animal called the housekeeping company to complain about her, which caused her to lose her job. She is his aunt, why did he call the police to arrest her? Her brother raised him, but he didn't understand gratitude and even killed him. I don't want to pursue the past, he's so wealthy now that he doesn't even come to show filial piety to her. If she didn't do household chores, she wouldn't have been assigned to clean his house. How could she know he was doing so well now? He lives in a big house and even hires someone to clean it. Zheng Xing had no intention of paying attention to her, but the diameter crossed her. I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? Li Fenghua came up and grabbed his clothes. If you don't give me 1 million, I'll let the whole community know you're a beast. That girl last time was your girlfriend, right? Her parents probably don't want their children to find a beast as their boyfriend, do they? Zheng Xing looked at her with a slight frown. He lowered his head and approached her slightly, whispering in her ear, do you want to die? The woman fell to the ground, and Zheng Xing's gaze couldn't see any emotions. As he looked at the woman lying on the ground, his mouth curved slightly and he slowly said, if I remember correctly, you should have a son. Li Fenghua looked at this so-called nephew like a devil. How dare you? Do you think I dare not? Jiang Ruan woke up to find Zheng Xing sitting on the sofa in her living room, reading a book and wearing a pair of golden glasses, which reminded her of the 4 words, literary scum. Wake up. He took off his glasses, put the book on the tea table, and got up to take out a bowl of congee in the kitchen. Come and have congee. First, cushion your stomach, I'll make lunch later. Congee is delicious. Zheng Xing sat opposite her and watched her drink it. After she finished drinking, he got up to wash the dishes again. She was still feeling a bit uncomfortable, with a slight pain in her back. She leaned against the sofa and looked at Zheng Xing, who was busy in the kitchen. She felt like she couldn't do without him. After lunch, it started to rain outside, and they lay on the sofa watching a movie. The curtains are closed, and the room is a bit dark. Zheng Xing held her in his arms, and she began to feel a bit reserved, but gradually got used to it. Halfway through the movie, she couldn't help but want to discuss the plot, but found that Xing Xing had fallen asleep. He was taking care of her so late yesterday, and got up earlier than her today. He definitely didn't rest well. Jiang Yuan couldn't help but touch his eyelashes with her hand. His eyelashes were black, dense, and long. With the blinking of her eyelids, they kept jumping up and down, as if dancing. She was still playing with his eyelashes when she saw him open his eyes, which were a bit red and still awake. Soft and soft. Is everything okay? No, Jiang Yuan clearly wanted to be more aggressive towards him, but her voice was soft. The next morning, Jiang Yuan and Xing Xing went shopping. Jiang Yuan. When she heard someone calling her, she turned her head and saw Xing Xing following behind her. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 6. She didn't recognize who it was, but she saw a man running over. It's really you, I thought I was mistaken. Jiang Yuan was a bit confused and said, sorry, who are you? Li Wenhao, I can't recognize him anymore. I sat in front of you in high school. Jiang Yuan doesn't remember much, and even in the original owner's memory, he doesn't have much impression of this name. You're getting thinner and thinner. Li Wenhao scratched his head and smiled happily. Looking at the person next to Jiang Yuan, isn't this your boyfriend? Xing Xing nodded and Li Wenhao looked at the two people holding hands, asking many questions. Just as Jiang Yuan thought it was about to end, he began to recall his high school life again. Xing Xing really didn't want to hear him speak, and Jiang Ro casually perfunctorily said a few words, but the other person just didn't have the eye power and needed to add two people on WeChat. Xing Xing took the initiative to reach out her phone this time, added it, and then pulled her away. Jiang Yuan didn't know anything about Li Wenhao. He didn't speak all the way, just tightly held his hand. After leaving, Jiang Yuan saw that Xing Xing was still a bit absent-minded. She took the initiative to post it and asked, what's wrong? Xing Xing wrapped his arms around Jiang Yuan's waist. Let's go home. When she returned home, there were only the two of them, and she could only look at herself. On the way back, Xing Xing seemed very happy, and Jiang Yuan looked at the smile on his lips all the way. The two of them went to the supermarket to buy some ingredients first, and she was a bit nostalgic for the rice she once cooked. It's already 6 o'clock when I got home. Xing Xing went to the kitchen to cook. When Jiang was flipping through his bags just now, he saw his ID card. It's his birthday on the 9th day of July. Isn't that almost here? Jiang Ro spent the whole night thinking about how to surprise him. She searched the internet and found that it was either a watch or a wallet, or a belt. She had no idea and was a bit worried. On this day, Jiang Yuan wanted to surprise someone like Xing Xing, but after wandering around all day, she couldn't find a satisfactory gift. When she got home, it was already 8 o'clock. Before she could open the door and turn on the lights, she found someone sitting on the sofa, which startled her. Where did you go? It's Xing Xing, his voice sounds a bit hoarse. Jiang Yuan smelled the smoke. I went shopping. I don't know why she feels like Xing Xing is very angry. Didn't I tell you to wait for me at home? He looked up at Jiang Yuan with slightly red eyes. Jiang Ro noticed something was wrong with him and walked over to sit next to him. What's wrong? Next time you go out, tell me if it's okay. He reached out to embrace Jiang Yuan and buried his head in her neck. Okay. Xing Xing hugged tightly, as if afraid of losing something. Jiang Yuan knows that his childhood was very dark and doesn't know how he lived it, but she always feels like he doesn't look like he hasn't experienced anything before. Sleeping at night, Xing Xing wanted to sleep with her, but she couldn't bear him looking at her with those pitiful eyes. I can only sleep and do nothing. Well, go to sleep. Jiang Yuan, afraid of what Xing Xing would do, was so far away that he could lie alone between two people. Zheng Xing looked at the person with his back to him and reached out to embrace her waist. Didn't he say he was sleeping? She patted her hand with distinct joints on her waist. Don't move, just hug. She has been struggling all along. Don't move, move again, you know what will happen. Zheng Xing hugged her waist. Startled, Jiang Yuan immediately calmed down and lay obediently with her eyes closed. She thought it would take a long time to fall asleep, but soon she felt drowsy and unexpectedly slept soundly. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 7. After this day, Jiang Yuan finally couldn't resist Zheng Xing and moved across to live with him. On Zheng Xing's birthday, Jiang Yuan tricked her into saying she needed to work overtime. In fact, she went to the cake shop and planned to make a cake herself. Under the guidance of the pastry chef, she quickly finished it. Although it's not as good looking, it's not very ugly either. She's still very satisfied. After returning, she took the cake across from her and planned to take it out again tonight. Before returning to Zheng Xing's room, she put the cake away. Discovering that Zheng Xing had gone out, she was waiting on the sofa, watching TV, and when she was in a daze, suddenly someone hugged her from behind, causing Jiang Yuan to tremble. You walk silently, it startles me. You're asleep, Zheng Xing touched Jiang Yuan's head. You didn't hear the courier knocking on the door, I signed your name in the living room. Express delivery, I didn't buy anything, did I? Jiang Yuan is a bit confused. She didn't buy anything, how could she have a delivery? When we arrived at the living room, it was indeed written Jiang Yuan. She was very puzzled, but she didn't even want to open it directly in front of Zheng Xing. She didn't understand what was inside the box, so she took it out. Upon opening, it appears to be a white lace strap. Zheng Xing knocked on the door and said, "Soft, come out. I bought your favorite orange. I won't eat it. And blueberries." Finally, Jiang Yuan opened the door. After finishing dinner at night, Zheng Xing was working in the study. Jiang Yuan ran to the opposite side and brought the cake. There was also a light switch outside the study, and she turned off the light from outside. Zheng Xing thought there was a power outage and immediately wanted to go to the living room, afraid of Jiang Yuan. As we walked together, we saw her coming in with a cake and candles shining on her charming face. Wishing you a happy birthday, wishing you a happy birthday. No one has ever celebrated their birthday, and Zheng Xing doesn't know when his birthday is. The birthday on his ID card is casually written. He also knows what she did when she went out today. As soon as she left, he followed her and knew everything she did. Jiang Yuan placed the birthday cake in front of Zheng Xing and said, "Happy birthday, boyfriend." She smiled brightly. Zheng Xing watched her lose his mind. She stared blankly at him standing there, not saying a word, somewhat wanting to laugh. Make a wish. Zheng Xing came to his senses and looked at her word by word, saying, "I hope Jiang Yuan will always be by my side." Jiang Yuan looked at him with a smile and said, "Fool, didn't you know that saying it wouldn't work? But you are the only person in this world who can fulfill my wishes, I must tell you." When Zheng Xing said the last word, the candle also went out. The study was pitch black. The light turned on, and her face was still smiling. She stepped forward and grabbed him. "I didn't buy a gift, can I owe it for now?" She has been choosing for a long time but hasn't made a good choice, so she plans to wait until she finds a suitable one before giving it to him. "I received the best gift." "What?" "You." She was carried to the table by him, and he kissed her as soon as he spoke. Jiang Ro pushed him down, and he stepped back slightly. Their noses were pressed against each other, and their lips touched with a slight movement. "What's wrong?" He has a deep voice. "I haven't eaten the cake yet." Eat later. Then he kissed her, tightly gripping the back of Jiang Ruan's head, but unable to retreat, he could only weakly support the edge of the table and close his eyes. He pecked at her lips. I want to eat cake. The sound of soaking in honey makes people feel more comfortable. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 8. Okay. He picked her up. I can walk on my own. She struggled for a moment, wanting to get out of his arms. Zhengxing placed her on a stool, cut a piece of cake, and fed her little by little. Jiang Ruan took 2 bites but didn't want to eat anymore. After falling in love, Zhengxing seemed to have changed a person. Although he was still gentle and profound, he always felt a bit different. He took her to the bathroom and carefully adjusted the water temperature for her. After she finished washing, Zhengxing pasted it up again to help blow her hair. When everything was done, it was already 1 o'clock and she was so tired that she couldn't open her eyes, so she went to sleep. After taking a shower, Zhengxing came out and watched Jiang Ruan, who was already asleep on the bed, bow his head and kiss his forehead. He turned around and went to the kitchen, took out the cake that had just been put in the refrigerator, and sat at the table to finish it bit by bit. His eyes were deep and bottomless, making it difficult to guess his emotions. The next night, Jiang Ruan snuggled up next to Zhengxing, who was still playing on TV. Zhengxing was not actually interested in TV dramas, but as long as we were together, it didn't matter what we did. All she has to do is lie in his arms. What time is it? Zhengxing touched her hair and looked at her watch. It's 10 o'clock. I'm going to bed now. I have to go to work tomorrow. Zhengxing didn't want her to leave, he wanted her to stay at home, and no one could see her except for himself. But he knows now is not the time, she doesn't love herself enough, he must have patience. Okay, I'll deliver it to you tomorrow. The next day after breakfast, Zhengxing drove Jiang Ruan to the company gate. She planned to get off the car and pushed open the car door, but found that it couldn't be opened. Zhengxing unbuttoned her seatbelt and bent down to circle her in the seat. Kiss before leaving. I'll pick you up after work. Jiang Ruan agreed and immediately got off the car. Zhengxing saw that she was running so fast and holding the steering wheel tightly. Don't you want to be with him? After work, as soon as she left, she saw Zhengxing's car parked at the door. He leaned slightly against the car, holding his phone in his hand, not knowing what he was looking at. At this moment, a woman passed by and Jiang Ruan recognized her. She was a company executive and very beautiful. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but looking at the girl's expression, she seemed a bit disappointed and probably guessed it. Zhengxing looked up and saw her standing at the entrance of the company building. He strode over and placed his hand on her shoulder. What are you looking at? Jiang Ruan didn't say anything. Many colleagues come out of work, but Jiang Ruan doesn't like to greet unfamiliar people, so she doesn't stay much. In the car, Jiang Ruan was eating the hamburger she had bought from Zhengxing, and her mouth was full of food. She said, "Is that woman beautiful just now?" "Which one?" "Just the one we talked to earlier." In Zhengxing's eyes, except for Jiang Ruan, no one else could catch his eye. "I didn't see it." "So what did you tell her?" "I didn't say anything, I just said I came to pick up my girlfriend." When he arrived at the garage, Zhengxing parked his car. Jiang Ruan had not finished his hamburger yet. Zhengxing looked up and saw a little tomato sauce on the corner of her mouth, so he naturally approached her. Jiang Rubai glanced at Zhengxing. At night, Jiang Ruan was awakened by thunder and was not held in Zhengxing's arms as usual. I turned around and found myself lying alone in bed. I looked at the restroom, but the light was not on. Ah Xing. No one responded. She shouted several times in a row, but no one answered. She got up, turned on the light, and went to the living room. Not in the living room, and there is no one in the study. Her gaze lingered in the room next to the study, which was a place she had never entered before. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 9. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 9. The door is locked, and no one opens it even after knocking. Not inside. Why does this room have to be locked? It's raining harder and harder outside, and she's a bit worried. This person went somewhere in the middle of the night without leaving any notes or anything. She wants to call him and use her own phone to find him. She ran to the next door to take a look, but it was gone. Returning to Zhengxing's room, she was a bit angry and didn't bring her phone when she went out. The thunder was rumbling outside, which made her a little nervous and couldn't sleep. She got up and went to the locked room, only to find that the door seemed to be broken. No matter how hard she tried to twist it, it couldn't be opened. She didn't insist, and before she took 2 steps, she heard a sound in the room. It seems like someone is sobbing. Ah Xing, are you inside? No one answered. She twisted the handle a few times, but still couldn't open it. She found the key to the room and thought the broken door was easy to open. Jiang Yuan never thought that the guild would be inside. As soon as she entered the door, she saw him curled up in the corner by the bedroom light. Ah Xing, what's wrong with you? He didn't react. Jiang Yuan walked over and only realized when he approached that his whole body was trembling. What's wrong with you? As soon as her hand touched his back, he suddenly shrank back. He lifted his head, and Jiang Yuan saw that his face was covered in tears, his eyes were red, his eyebrows twisted together, and he seemed to be in great pain. Don't hit me, I'll be obedient. Jiang Yuan crouched down in front of him, reaching out to wipe away the tears from his cheeks. Ah Xing, it's me, soft and soft. His body was still trembling, as if encountering something scared, desperately retreating, repeating in his mouth. Don't keep me and the dog in a cage together. At this moment, Zhengxing was like a child, his eyes filled with confusion and fear. Jiang Ro felt a pain in his heart and hugged him, gently patting his back with his hand and comforting him softly. Don't be afraid, no one wants to cage you and the dog together. She patiently coaxed him, as if assured, as his tense body gradually relaxed. When his emotions stabilized, Jiang Ro let go of him, took his hand, and whispered to him, go back to sleep, okay? He nodded and obediently walked to the bedside to lie down. Jiang Yuan felt indescribable pain as she watched him fall asleep. Zhengxing, how did you get through those years? When Zhengxing woke up, he saw Jiang Yuan half sitting on the bed, with red and swollen eyes, clearly crying. Soft, what's wrong? Did you have a nightmare? She stepped forward to embrace him, tears streaming down her face. Zhengxing gently pushed her away and wiped away her tears, saying, fool, dreams are all fake. Ah Xing, I will treat you well in the future. Zhengxing's face showed a smile, and Jiang Yuan was carried back into her arms. During breakfast, Jiang Yuan insinuated and found that he didn't even remember what happened last night. In the following nights, she also put in extra effort, and what happened that night was like a dream that would never happen again. When she sat in front of the mirror, she bent down and held her in her arms. Can't you stay at home? I'm going to work. Jiang Yuan didn't want to tell him what happened that night. I can support you, don't work, okay? No way. Without any reluctance, Zhengxing let go of her and went to the living room. Jiang Ro tidied up and greeted him before leaving the door. In the living room, when he saw the door closed, his eyes suddenly turned cold and he slowly released the cup in his hand. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Paranoid. He's possessive and explosive. Table 10. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 10. Paranoid, he's possessive and explosive. Table 10. The sound of broken glass rang out. Jiang Ro had just arrived downstairs when a phone call from Xing came in. What's wrong? Soft and soft, I'm injured. Can you help me bandage it before going to work? She immediately turned around and went upstairs to see Xing sitting on the sofa, with a pile of broken glass and a pool of blood on the ground. What's going on? She didn't change her shoes in a hurry. The cup was broken, and I accidentally cut my hand. She examined the wound and it was a bit deep. How could you be so careless? It's okay, just wrap it up for me. I can't hold it with one hand, so I can't delay you from work. What class are you still working? Let's go to the hospital first. The wound is a bit deep and may require stitches. It's not that serious, just a simple bandage. I don't want you to be late. I won't go. Jiang Ro picked up gauze and gave him a simple bandage, then took him to the hospital. The wound was a bit deep, and she sewed 2 stitches. Does it hurt? He lost so much blood just now and didn't react at all. It's okay, are you still going to work? I won't go. Working hours have already passed, and if I go, my salary will be deducted. I might as well take a leave. Xing lowered his eyes and held Jiang Ruan with an unharmed hand. Let's go home then. Xing's hand was injured and he could only order takeout at night. Originally, Jiang Ruan wanted to cook for him, but he refused, afraid that she would work too hard. After finishing her meal, she took a good shower. After taking a shower, Xing came out and saw Jiang Ruan lying in bed wearing a pajama skirt with her feet raised. Her nightgown slid slightly upwards, and he could vaguely see the color of the clothes inside, feeling a burst of heat. What are you looking at? Xing walked over. It's nothing, just take a casual look. Jiang Ruan was about to get up when he pressed him over. Get up, it's so heavy. She smells so fragrant, Xing couldn't help but kiss her. Xing looked at her and remembered the weather 2 days ago. Suddenly, he understood why Jiang Ruan asked those questions that morning. She was already asleep in her arms. He kissed her eyes, gently pulled out his suppressed arm, and went to the living room. He knew that his illness might have flared up again. That year, he killed someone and went to the juvenile detention center. At that time, he was only 16 years old and always loved sitting there alone, gloomy and isolated, never communicating with anyone. Being bullied in that place is like a certain rule, and coupled with his personality, he quickly becomes the target of others' attacks. When others insult him, he does not resist or beg for mercy. Over time, anyone can bully him. Until something happened later, Xing remained silent. Because of a photo, he almost killed someone. Later, the person who had touched his photo dared not approach him again after he recovered, and a year later he suffered from severe depression. When Jiang Ruan woke up, Xing was still sleeping because his hand was injured, so she went to buy breakfast. At 7 o'clock in the morning, there are many people buying breakfast and still have to wait. Jiang Ro casually found a chair to sit down and happened to see the entrance of the community. Idle and bored, looking around, she suddenly saw a familiar face, the woman who had broken her previous outfit that day. Jiang Ruan frowned slightly, stood up, and walked towards the door, her face becoming clearer. It's her. There is a man standing next to her, about her age, who looks sharp and sarcastic in his speech. They are sneaking around the entrance of the community, not knowing what they are plotting. Beauty, that's it. The boss's voice disrupted Jiang Ruan's thoughts, and she took it over and said thank you. Thank you for the 3 recommended votes. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter.